City Council meeting for the City of Ceres for Monday, October 23rd, 2017. At this time, can we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Durossette.
Here.
Councilmember Lane.
Here.
Vice Mayor Kline.
Here.
Councilmember Ryno.
Here.
And Mayor Vierra.
Here. Next, we will have the invocation by Chris Grigson from the Valley Christian Center, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
God in heaven, I thank you for this time that we can come together. And Lord, I pray for our city leaders. Lord, I pray that you give them wisdom. I pray for patience. I pray that this would be a meeting of fruitful beginnings. And Lord God, I pray that we can come to agreement together, Lord, for the betterment of our city. We thank you, and I pray for direction. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, moving on to presentations. We have none this evening. So citizens' communication to council on matters not included on the agenda. While the City Council welcomes and encourages participation in City Council meetings, adopted rules allow no more than 5 minutes for expression of non-agenda items. Matters under the jurisdiction of the City Council and not on the posted agenda may be addressed by the general public. However, California law prohibits the City Council from taking action on any matter which is not on the posted agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the City Council. Citizens are entitled to address the City Council on any agenda item subject to the 5-minute provision. At this time, I do have a couple of speaker cards that I'll call on first, and then I'll open it up for the public. The first is Ramona Moore.
Hi, good evening. I'm Ramona Moore, and I've been in the city, living in this town for 14 years. And as many of you know, there's going to be a water increase. My utility bill is already high. And I see that other code enforcements are not being enforced, such as garbages that have been left out, for all the public to see. There's homes that, especially near the park in Strawberry Field, there's some homes that have garbage. There's even a chicken coop. There's even a chicken in a chicken coop in the front yard, and nobody has ever done anything about it. And then also, a newspaper person called me today saying that there's going to be a dispensary on Hatch in Mitchell by the Jack in the Box that's going to be coming. So anyway, it's pretty depressing news. I've raised my kids here. My daughter, left to go to the Army, and she doesn't want to come back here. And it broke my heart because I've been here for a long time. But, I guess I'm going to move. How can you allow a dispensary here? There's a lot of kids that go to school, and there's even a drug say no to drugs week. And so now you can't say that because there's going to be drugs. And there's going to be more chaos, more garbage. So what are you going to do about it?
Please just make sure you address the council. Are there any other comments?
No, not at the moment.
Okay. Maybe someone. You mentioned the chicken coop. It's in the city limits. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Because
Okay.
it's in front of Strawberry Field on Hackett.
Okay. Maybe we can get your address and have someone at least check that out, because I don't believe we allow chickens in the city limits. Is that correct?
No chickens.
Okay.
If she's got a speaker card, then we have her information. We'll contact her.
It's not on here, though.
Okay. Lieutenant Yandel, can you get her information and we can follow up? Thank you.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
What about the garbage cans? They're supposed to be inside the yards. One time I called the code enforcement and I was told that he wasn't available, And then I go for a walk, and there's a code enforcement truck going past all the garbage cans that should be inside.
Yeah, and code enforcement is something that I think is all important to us and stuff that we'd like to do. The challenge we have right now is we only have one code enforcement for, in city, it's over 47,000 people. So we're open to, and we're looking at whether we might be able to utilize some volunteers for some code enforcement things, but it's a budget challenge is the only reason we don't have more people.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, Jose, is it Estrada? Estrella? Okay.
Good evening, Council. I'm new to the area. I just moved in, been here a couple months. I live in Modesto. I would like to do business with the city of Ceres. And I would like to invite you guys to the grand opening once I get all the paperwork and all my permits and all my licenses and everything in order. Saturday, November 11th at noon on Mitchell and Hatch.
Yeah. What type of business, if
We're
you
not the
mind if I ask?
dispensary. We want to do a medical cannabis evaluation.
Okay. And we're not discussing, I mean, we have agenda items
right.
on here already.
But that's what it's going to be. Just evaluations only. With the doctor. You see a doctor, you get a recommendation. With the recommendation, that you can go get your prescription.
Yeah, again, that process would have to be vetted with the city staff before any direction is recommended or taken by the council.
Just want to invite you guys out to our grand opening ribbon cutting. We'll see if you guys can cut the ribbon.
Well, I'm not sure you're permitted to be able to do that yet, so.
I know. Just to give you guys a heads up. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, is there anyone else that would like to speak to the council on a non-agenda item? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to appointments to boards and commissions. We have one item, approval of the appointments of Burl, Condit, and Lee Brandt to the Measure H Citizens Oversight Committee for a 2-year term expiring on June 30th, 2019. Is there a staff report or anything?
Pretty straightforward. We had 2 vacancies. Mr. Shepard had stepped down, as well as another individual had a work conflict, so he's not able to fulfill his term. So those 2 openings are recommended to be filled. We did open the period for a little over a month. We did get the 2 applications. So from staff perspective, we recommend the appointment at this time so that they'll be available for our next Measure H meeting on November 15th.
Okay, I'm familiar with both individuals, and I think they would be ideal candidates. So at this time, is there anyone on the council that has a comment before I open it up to see if anyone in the public would like to comment? Okay, at this time, is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment on the recommended appointments? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council. Do you need a motion or just direction from the council?
It does take an action. So
Okay.
Motion.
Vote for approval of Burl, Condit, and Lee Brandt.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Lane and second by Vice Mayor Kline. Can we have the roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Durossette.
Yes.
Councilmember Lane.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kline.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryno.
Yes.
And Mayor Vierra.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, conflict of interest declaration. At this time, is there anyone on the council that would like to declare a conflict of interest on any of the 11 consent calendar items or 1 public hearing item? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to the consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are considered routine in nature and will be enacted by a single motion unless otherwise requested by an individual council member or public for special consideration. Otherwise, the recommendation of staff will be accepted and acted upon by roll call vote. At this time, is there anyone on the council that would like one of the consent calendar items pulled for further discussion? Okay, anyone in the audience that would like to have a consent calendar item pulled for further discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll bring it back to the council for direction on the consent calendar items.
Move to approve 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Durossette, a second by Councilmember Lane. Can we have the roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Durossette.
Yes.
Councilmember Lane.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kline.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryno.
Yes.
And Mayor Vierra.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. We have no unfinished business this evening, and we have one public hearing item. Public hearing to consider zoning ordinance text amendment ZOTA 17-11, ordinance number 2017-1043, and a development agreement DA 17-12 for the project located at 1442 Angie Avenue. Mr. Wells?
Thank you, Mayor. This evening, consideration is following the recommendations of the Planning Commission from last Monday, where they considered these same items as well as a conditional use permit for the location mentioned there at 1442 Angie Avenue. Per council direction, in August, staff has continued to work on expanding the opportunity for cannabis-related businesses within the city under the strict and tight regulatory guidelines of the development agreement. So this evening, the three components simply are a zoning ordinance text amendment, which provides for the definition of a cannabis, adds that to our ordinance. The ordinance, which allows a specific use under that text amendment, that would be applicable, the development agreement, which lays out the specific relationship between the city and the developers, in this case, the owner and the business owner, and again, inconsistent with the conditional use permit. Another requirement that's listed in both the zoning ordinance text amendment and the DA is the last piece is a cannabis business permit, which would be issued at the conclusion of the ordinance process if the council were to move forward with that this evening. Couple things as the ordinance is put together. It is set up for industrial uses for the dispensary as the default in the 3 industrial zones that we have currently, which would be general industrial, light industrial, or industrial park. Those would be the facilities where a dispensary could be located, again, only under the situation where you had a development agreement, a CUP, and the issuance of a permit. Those would apply to both medicinal and adult use. As most of you are aware, the change with the state law that occurred earlier this year was previously referred to as recreational cannabis, is now referred to as adult use. The DA this evening for the pacified development agreement is for medicinal use. That is the primary focus of this development agreement, although I will caution that most experts do expect the regulatory structure in the future to most likely come together between adult use and medicinal. But as it stands today, they are 2 separate licensing processes. They will follow the same regulatory structure at the state level, again, where our local control is maintained, i.e. you can't get a state license without a affirmative response from the local agency indicating that a particular business applying for a state license has been granted approval at the local level. So again, that provides us a great latitude to be able to be very selective and to put the criteria necessary in place to ensure that we protect the best interests of our citizens in any cannabis-related activities that occur in our city. So that's a very critical and key point to this whole conversation and why council has directed to use the development agreement, as it allows us to put the necessary teeth, shall we say, into effect to be able to make sure that we are doing business with folks who we feel are in our best interest and in the community's best interest. Again, we've been down this road with Case Manufacturing, and this process is following that same process in terms of the development agreement was using that same framework, again adjusted from a manufacturing facility to a dispensary, but the overall context and format of the DA is in essence the same. All in all, staff recommends approval of this of these 3 items. We do feel from a staff level that this particular location has the necessary infrastructure with the parking, the traffic generation in that area, and a facility that can accommodate the demands of this particular business operation and the way they're proposing it. So we do feel it is a fit for the area, again, consistent with council's direction on expanding the opportunity under a very limited and controlled situation. So with that, I'm open to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Are there any questions of staff council has? You want to wait until after public comment? Okay. At this time, I'll open it up to the public. Anyone that would like to speak on this item, please come forth and state your name for the record. Wow. Okay. Didn't think anybody was going to speak.
Good afternoon, good evening. Don Donaldson, 2305 Joy Avenue. And everybody knows that I'm a veteran. I'm sure you do. PTSD also. And we lose over 20 veterans a day committing suicide for PTSD. It's a shame that we can have drugs, marijuana, and today I read that they can have chocolate cookies or whatever they have to help a veteran or help any person. But if I get caught with marijuana, I can't even ask my doctor to talk about if anything's going to help me. If I get caught with marijuana, if I get caught with any drugs, federal, I can lose all my benefits. Now, how can we possibly treat our veterans like this? I take medication. I have to get it approved. And I don't know how to take marijuana to help me. But if it did help me, I don't know why the veterans can't take it. And maybe we wouldn't have over 20 veterans commit suicide every day. So we can help the people that didn't help us in the wartime or going to the service. This upsets me a little bit. And how you prove that I was there, let me read just a little bit what I have to go through, what I had to go through, okay? Send evidence showing you served in the County Republic of Vietnam, and the county means between January 1962 to May 1975, or you physically served or visit the Republic of Vietnam. Okay. I had to prove that I was in Vietnam.
Don, do you
Yes.
don't mind if I ask? I'm not sure what that has to do with this
Well,
item.
it has to do with having medicine if you served in a combat zone to help you. If it's approved, why can't I have it?
I think you're talking to the wrong board. We're not the one
But
that
you're
makes it.
approving it, aren't you approving people to sell marijuana? You're giving them,
Well, we approve people to sell groceries too, but we're not the ones that tell them who to sell to.
is it legal or is it not legal? I'm a federal person, so the DEA, the federal DEA is gonna say you can sell illegal drugs?
Well, that's a whole nother issue, whether it's, there's a federal and state challenge going on.
And I'm
right-
federal.
I'm sorry?
I'm federal.
Well,
I'm federal.
I can understand, but all that we're talking about tonight, Don, is a zoning issue, not whether you can be medicated or not medicated. That's not what our purview is tonight. So I would kind of ask you to, either speak in support or opposition to the zoning, because it doesn't really have anything to do with whether
Well,
you would be provided that.
I oppose anything that's not legal, and I oppose
Well,
putting anything up there.
okay, well, I mean, it is legal, and the voters did vote to
It's not
legalize
federal,
it.
legally federal.
Well, I know that's, again, we live in the state of California, whether I like it or not. The state of California says it's legal, maybe the federal government doesn't, and that's an issue that we're not fighting.
So
at this
whenever
point.
you open that, we have a DEA standing right there and have a lawsuit, right?
Not correct. The Drug Enforcement Agency has not, under the current Cole memo, which is the federal legislation, they are not enforcing anything in states that have approved and voter approved regulations in place.
So I can buy it and get caught from it.
Again, that's a personal decision that you have to make on the basis of what you're at risk.
Pastor Grigson, right here on 2nd Street at the Valley Christian Center. I'm a little confused. Obviously, you guys probably guess I'm coming out on a moral issue, but I'm coming out against it. I deal with drug addiction every day, and we have a ministry called Teen Challenge, which handles that. And every one of them use marijuana as a gateway drug. I had a cousin that was even prescribed it from the doctor. He didn't need a dispensary, and that took care of that. So he got the medicine he needed. The fact that you need a dispensary, I don't know that that's actually accurate, but all of my observations are from what I've seen in those areas. trouble does come. It does follow that kind of business. No matter what happens in Sacramento, they're having an issue with it now, even though they're expanding. I just wanted to come out against that.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to comment on this item?
John Warren, thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. The article in today's Bee, I think, referenced this zoning thing that we're talking about this evening. And I believe the lady was here at the last council meeting that is involved with that particular address on Angie. Am I correct?
No, that's incorrect. That's incorrect. Two separate, completely separate entities.
Two separate things?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Two.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, completely separate.
I have a couple questions, and maybe you can help clarify. The 1442 address on Angie, is that the old Nelson swimming pool building? Is that address?
It's on the corner, southeast corner of Angie and
Adrian.
southeast corner. It's directly behind the Five Star Auto Sales.
So it's not that.
I don't know.
So
what
it's not
Nelson's
that
building
far
is.
up Angie?
Correct.
It's down
It's right on the
center.
corner.
Correct.
How many people are going to be working in that facility?
Approximately 30.
Where are they going to park?
They have a parking lot that has 34 parking spaces, plus there's on-street parking.
And how much traffic to transport this product is going to be coming and going on Angie?
The traffic transport generally happens off hours. The customers are what generate the
Wasn't my
traffic.
question. My question was, what kind of traffic are we going to have?
Yes, the variation is pretty wild depending on the dispensary. You can see customer ranges in the 200 to 500 per day, depending on the dispensary. But their business hours are generally open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So several hundred over the course of 12 hours. So you're looking at 20 to 30, 40 per hour. The typical transaction is less than 10 minutes.
Has a
You see a lot of turnover.
survey been done to determine, because Angie is a very small street.
Mm-hmm.
It's an L-shaped street, and the access to Hatch is a stop sign. I mean, you can't go really across very well to make a left there
Correct.
to go east. So you're going to have a traffic nightmare with that many vehicles coming and going through.
Hatch and Mitchell is the third busiest intersection in Stanislaus County. Any additional traffic generated by this one particular business won't be noticed, unfortunately, because of the traffic volume that's already there.
Traffic signal is already there?
No, the traffic
volume at the
is-
intersection of Hatch and Mitchell.
That's
That intersection is one of the third busiest in Stanislaus
Coming
County.
and going on Angie have to access that street, and when they come out, whether they go
They will
up and
go-
come out
they will go
on
west.
Mitchell or they come out on Hatch.
Correct.
There's no signal lights controlled intersections at either of those places,
Correct.
and the volume of traffic is going to be horrendous.
Again, it's
Not counting the employees.
it's consistent with the existing use of those facilities. The traffic was already in, because it's an existing building.
Well, just based upon the information that you've given tonight, I would suggest that you do some more in-depth studies on that traffic. And what's
Neither
gonna
of those locations can support a traffic signal because they're too close to the existing signal
happen. I would
lines.
understand that. So maybe a better location should be suited for that type of business. Something to consider.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item?
Typically, so that people understand historically, when dispensaries open, this isn't a situation like they
Could
had-
you make sure you address the council, please?
So this isn't like the situation in Colorado where suddenly there were some dispensaries and the entire state came down. Usually, typically, when a new dispensary opens, you'll have some extra traffic to that dispensary. But currently in Stanislaus County, especially in Modesto, you already have well-established dispensaries. So although they're going to have a lot of traffic, it's not going to be overwhelming. And typically, if they're going to have traffic, it's on the weekends. So to the gentleman's comment, I think that's a perfect location. I understand that street, and it is very narrow, but I think that we may be overestimating, where there's a mile-long stretch of cars. Initially, there may be a lot of traffic. It depends. If it's the only dispensary in Ceres, then that's probably going to happen. But then it kind of bleeds off because people have other places to go. There's dispensaries in Salida. There's dispensaries in Empire. There's dispensaries out in North Modesto. So if it were the only game in town, I could see just an absolute ginormous traffic mess. But I would like to ease some people's concern about the traffic. I can't imagine that it would be that demonstrative. I just can't imagine it. So I would like to encourage people just to keep an open mind, because there are many other dispensaries in our county. So that's just my point tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sheila Brandt, 2104 Haley, Aloha. My question is, now how many of these, do we have a limit as to how many of these dispensaries we will have in our city? Are we going to put a limit on that?
Currently, it's not proposed. Every situation is being dealt with on a case-by-case basis, which requires this same process. So it would be ordinance, depending on the situation, development agreement, conditional use permit, and license. So this process this evening is not setting a limit, because this is the first dispensary. In future considerations, the council may or may not direct us to enact that. That is the council's direction, but at this point, there is not a cap put in place.
Okay, and this is strictly for medical reasons, or
Correct.
also for recreation?
Currently medical. So the way the process works for anybody using a dispensary for medical purposes, when they come into a dispensary, their ID is checked, their medical ID is checked, and then only then are they able to purchase any dispensed item.
Okay, well, since it has been proved by many people, especially those who are cancer patients, this does seem to help a lot of people with all the side effects that the chemo and radiation causes. And maybe as things progress, we might eventually one day say that we need to put a limit to where there's just X amount of dispensaries within our city limit. But at this point, I think it should be a go.
Anyone else? Okay. Okay. All right, at this time, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council. Vice Mayor Kline?
Well, I have quite a few concerns here. First is, I'd asked Mr. Wells for the list of the types of cannabis license. I thought a while back we had talked about him bringing back the cannabis license and where we wanted it as a zone and have a study on it and give it back to staff. So my question is, why is the cart before the horse? And we didn't have that discussion as far as what other type of licenses we want and what zoning and where did we want them.
Well, I think I can address that, Councilmember Kline. I believe you voted along with the rest of us to tell him to bring us back something ASAP related to dispensaries and everything else. So I didn't know that was what you wanted, unless the rest of the council heard that. I don't think so. So in all defense to him, I didn't hear that, if that was the direction you wanted.
Yeah, and this is the first step in a process. The first step was creating the opportunity for dispensaries. And again, this is the thing we know the most about in terms of what's happening basically at the state level. As I mentioned earlier, this doesn't operate unless there is a state license issued as well. So again, our regulatory structure that we're putting in place at the local level is also, you have to have a state license. On the dispensary side, that is the piece that is moving the quickest at the state level, whereas an existing dispensary will have preferential treatment for being able to get a state license on January 1st. So that is a key step in this overall process of being able to be in front of that to be able to move this quickly, i.e. why this piece is coming first. There are additional steps to be taken. As we've discussed previously, there's other aspects of this. We've already done manufacturing, but there's testing, there's distribution, there's other facets of this overall law that we're not there yet. And frankly, from the state level, those regulations have not been issued. So we're waiting to see how those regs come out from the state before we move on those other processes. Again, the dispensaries is the one that we know the most about because those regs, in essence, were already issued and they've been retracted because of the change in state law. We already knew that we could get a piece of this put in place quickly enough to be reactive to the state law restrictions.
Okay. So to me, the next step would be is we need to have a discussion about the limit of dispensaries we're going to allow in the city. I mean, not tonight, but you know what I'm saying?
That's council direction.
Okay. Another concern I have in reading the conditions of approval in Exhibit A, it's A2, it says commercial cannabis dispensary. Nowhere does it say it is a medical cannabis dispensary. And I read further where a commercial cannabis dispensary is also part of the Medical and Adult Use Cannabis Regulatory and Safety Act.
They're both under the same regulatory structure, but the development agreement, the whereas, and the framework of the agreement is built for medicinal. If that were to change in the future for adult use, it would require an amendment to the development agreement. It's a major amendment.
Okay, well, the other thing I have a concern with, and you made a comment that there was 35 parking spaces. I drove by it. There is no main entrance on Angie Way. It is all side entrances. The main entrance onto this facility is on Adrian.
Correct.
So are they going to alter the business so the main entrance is on Angie Way, or?
No, that address has already been assigned to this facility years ago when it was operating differently, but it is, the way it's set up today is the way it will operate. The door is actually on the side street, not on Angie, but that address was already assigned to it. And that parking lot is exclusively for this business.
And I didn't see the parking lot. Where's the parking lot?
Accessed off of this. The side
So
street.
it's off of Adrian?
Adrian, correct.
Okay.
That parking lot is what serves this facility, which provides for, again, the 34 parking spaces that are necessary for this facility, which makes this facility one that fits the best of the other scenes that we've seen in areas that we have accommodated because they've got that on-site parking. There's a lot of industrial facilities who don't have that capacity of parking, which makes this location significantly advantageous.
Well, and then another concern I have, I got this thing, it's called the Legalization of Marijuana in Colorado Impact Report, and it's dated October of 2017. Now, some of the things that I read in here, and I just pulled out the summary. Talks about marijuana-related traffic deaths, the difference between 2006 and 2013. They went from 55 deaths to 123 since the legalization of marijuana. In a 4-year study. There is a 12% increase in youth recreational marijuana use. And in Colorado, it's a 55% higher national average than compared to 39% in 2011 and 12. I mean, there's a lot more number of hospitalizations related to marijuana. In 2011, there were 6,300. In January to September 2015, there were 10,900. You know, my concern is, you know, there's still going to be a black market for marijuana. There's still going to be a black market for other cannabis. You know, we've read where, you know, a couple of high schoolers got a brownie and 6 of them got sick, and, you know, they went to the hospital of it. So, you know, those are some of my concerns because, you know, we're still going to have a black market. And in a sense, to me, I think that we're just feeding into this. You know, and I have and let me tell you, I do have a personal concern for this, and I'll tell you what the personal concern is. I had a stepsister that got killed from somebody spaced out on drugs exactly 1 month after her 18th birthday on Mitchell Road, 2 blocks from our house. And, you know, to see that and to go through that experience, you know, I do have a concern with it. The other thing I have a concern with is I did meet with the dispensary in North Modesto, and I was very impressed with it. I will tell you, I was very impressed with it, the way the operation was and the thing. But the concerns I had is I talked to the business owner next door, you know, and was the foot traffic. You know, that was their biggest concern. They said the dispensary was a great neighbor. They had no fears. They've had no break-ins. They've never had anything. They wish it was a standalone business. And from all aspects, what I've seen on Angie Way, it is a standalone business. So to me, that's a plus. But I still, I do, and like I say, some of it's personal. I do have some concerns with it. But there is a lot of positives that I can see with it be a standalone business, where the location is, and how the one in North Modesto is a good tenant. And, you know, the only complaint was the foot traffic. That's the only complaint that they shared with me, was the foot traffic. So at this time, that's all my comments.
Would you like me to address any of those, or?
We'll get the rest of the council's comments if there are any. Any other council comments?
Yeah, I got just a couple things. You know, part of this, you know, I think we're really in front of the game, and the staff did a great job on the report and all that stuff. You know, but if South Modesto was to say do the dispensaries, and we're talking medical right now only, just medical, and we'll say Keys or North Turlock, you know, and then so people that live in Ceres that have that need are going out there to get it. Well, you know, if they come to Ceres, and I think as a council we do things right. I think as a staff we do things right. I think a lot of our citizens at times might not, but at the same time, you know, it's like at least we're involved, we're in charge, we're all doing this together because we've never done it before, and we can look at all kinds of data. You know, I teach driver's training at the school, so we can talk about drunk driving deaths and under the influence of deaths, whether it's marijuana or any of those other drugs. And I know we have first responders here. You guys can see that, you see it all the time. It is just a thing now that in the state of California, not to tell you guys what you already know, they have already said that this is going to be legal because the voters said okay. And so, you know, it's kind of like, I think we have to grab the bull by the horns and see how this process goes. There's 4 steps, and again, not to go through those things in regards to maybe how the group that's here tonight that has that facility could not maybe have that facility. And I agree with Sheila over in the back that we don't need to have 20 of them, right? Because I think you can't monitor 20 of them. But at the same time, too, the tax revenue, what we're lacking, because we have leakage so bad in all other areas of commercial stuff, that this has been and will be with case manufacturing, I think, with these individuals that are here this evening, a great thing. I have a couple questions. Number one is, how did we come to the decision of these monitor figures, the dollar figures here?
That was a negotiated item. Using the framework that we did with case manufacturing, we used that same framework to come up with a negotiated amount.
And so the next group that comes on board, say there's another one that comes on board, this is the blueprint that we'll be using for?
Just like we use the case manufacturing. In essence, I've gotten other phone calls and other people with interest. My general response is, have you read the DA yet? If not, please do that. Give me a call back.
You know, and I had the same concerns, Councilmember Kline, in regards to the parking. And, you know, I kind of live around the corner over there in regards to, you know, making sure that, and the foot traffic and the traffic itself on Mitchell Road. That's a busy road. We get it. Average daily traffic's, 80,000 cars or something? It's a lot, we'll just say. It's a big number. And I do agree that I think it's really not going to change much there. But at the very end of the day, this is, I think we just haven't taken baby steps. We've taken the right steps. And, I think that this is something, obviously, that's here in the state of California. It's going to stay here. I wish more veterans could use the medical marijuana, Mr. Donaldson, to help themselves in regards to the pain and the stuff that they've, going through, whatever the case is, or just anybody. But we're only talking about medical marijuana. We're not talking about recreational use because that's not here yet. And again, as a council, maybe we say, and I don't know what that is, maybe we say there's no recreation use. It's the only medical. But I've seen their facility. I think that they are going to bring some great worth to the city, and thank you.
Any other council comments? Councilmember Ryno?
Well, I think we are approving the use by the adult use cannabis dispensary in an industrial zone tonight as well.
That's not correct.
That's incorrect?
That's incorrect.
I thought it was in the ZOTA.
The definition of a dispensary
Yes.
is there, but again,
It can't be approved unless they have a
It can be
DA.
approved with a DA.
Correct.
Conditional use permit and a license. So
Right.
the zoning ordinance amendment defines what a dispensary is, and it has both definitions in there of adult use and recreation, but without those other approvals, that definition means nothing.
But we are saying that the adult use cannabis dispensary could go into industrial zones, correct? If they meet all the other criteria.
And have a development agreement and a conditional use permit.
Right. So is there, say all of a sudden we get 8 applicants that want to open recreational dispensaries, and they've all chosen industrial areas, can we say, based on what we have now, that we're not going to allow all 8?
100% discretionary.
Even though they meet, even though they say they meet all of the requests or requirements of a DA, we can still say no?
Yes. It is 100% discretionary.
Okay.
That is, in essence, the framework of the conditional use permit is a discretionary approval by legislative body.
And if the neighbors complain about the one that's before us tonight, I think it was Paula Redfern who brought up the complaint at the Planning Commission meeting that under the DA, we didn't have any enforcement. We would have to go through the zoning and it would take forever. But is that inaccurate?
It's
would
inaccurate,
it be through
correct.
the DA?
Hence why we have the levels. One, we have state at the top, then our local levels where, the most, stringent piece, the development agreement, but also the conditional use permit as well as the permit. And if we were to pull that permit for some reason of incompliance with our overall regulatory structure, they are not able to operate at the state level if we pull their local permit. So hence why we've got that many, call them triggers, in place. So we've got the opportunity to ensure, and it's in their best interest as well to be a good business partner with the city, because it's in their business model to be a business that makes money. That's why we're doing this. At the end of the day, they are a business that are providing medicine for their clients, but at the same time, it's a business. And if they're not following our rules, then that's going to create a problem for their business. And so this is one that I mentioned to the Planning Commission. We have that unique structure with a property owner, a business owner, 2 different entities, and the city, all with the same interest. Their success creates success for us, and when they don't have problems, we don't have problems.
Okay. When we first discussed dispensaries, I was absolutely opposed to dispensaries. And then we were invited to go up and look at the facility in North Modesto. And I have to say I was very impressed by the way it was run. And at first I thought, well, they could just be putting a show on for us because they knew we were coming. But then, as Vice Mayor Kline said, I also went next door and talked to the business right next door, and they were only unhappy with the amount of traffic. And it wasn't necessarily, I guess it's foot traffic, but it was all the cars that were coming, and people would get there and they would leave. But that where they were set up, it really wasn't set up for the traffic to come and go. So with that said, I totally changed my mind about this particular dispensary because I thought it was going in a great location. I thought they had the parking lot that would take care of, parking infringing on existing businesses. And I got to watch their security guard that would sit out front, and if somebody was even cutting across the property next door, he would politely go up to them and say, we have to respect our neighbors, please don't do this. And the tenants next door confirmed that they do that. So I definitely would approve the DA.
Any other comments?
Well, I'm not going to beat this thing to death because I'm in support of it, and you guys do have a well-run business, and very impressed in what we've seen. We all sound like we were pretty well impressed out there. Staff, I just like to thank you guys for really addressing this quickly, and fortunate enough there is a business out there that's willing to come back to Ceres and wants to invest in our community. And this DA is important, and the conditional use permit, I mean, we could pull this any time if these conditions aren't met, and so we have complete control over this. I know, again, I stated this from the aspect of the league. We fought real hard for language that we finally got here just recently, that finally came out, that if the city of Ceres or any city says that this applicant's okay and we're willing to give permits for it, then the state's okay with it. We fought hard for that because I think that's important, because there are going to be a lot of people coming out wanting to open up these businesses. And, I don't see this here city when you got, I believe the number is right around 30 in the city of Sacramento. That's a pretty big city, right? I can't see us, putting a number on it. I think this council is going to have full discretion in any council setting here in the future, but I think reasonably you got to look at it, and what's good for the industry, is, look, you can look at all the grocery stores and say, man, you got this big one over here and this other big one wants to come in. Oh God, now we want to put a super Walmart in. Now these other grocery stores are going to hurt. It comes within reason to where we have to look at it and say, what's the number? And numbers have been thrown out there, and they're just numbers. But again, the way this DA is written, and I can't remember our attorney's name on this. Forgive me for that, but Amber did a great job, well written. So thank you for that. So I would be in full support of this, the way it's written now, and in the future, I do agree with Councilman Kline. We need to really have some more conversation on some of this word zoning and that sort of thing, maybe in the future. Other areas possible, I don't know. We haven't had that conversation, but those were some of the things we did talk about. So I would like to see that in the future talked about. And, the number, if we want to put a number on it, then we put a number on it. I have no issues with that either. But again, I think that's going to be our discretion. So I don't really have a problem either way with that right now. But again, I would be in full support of this.
Thank you. Well, I think it would be remiss if I didn't say this is probably not an easy discussion. It's new for many of us, whether we're on one side of the fence or the other. I will go back to, I always have been governed by what this body does, which is directed by what the public wants us, because the way that it works is the public, the council, and then staff. And when Prop 64 and others move forward, like it or not, and didn't matter what side of the fence I'm on, it's something to where the direction was given by the larger percentage of people in this state. Having said that, I've had the opportunity to experience friends who many of you probably know that are taking medical cannabis because their plot in life, unfortunately, isn't a healthy one right now. And I'm not sure that it'll make them 100% better, but it sure has made their quality of life a lot better. And they're not somebody that's sitting around eating Cheetos and drinking Mountain Dew, although that's a stereotype that a lot of people have. So my mind has been opened up to a lot. I did happen to see the business. I was able to get a tour of the business, and I think I've said before, I was quite shocked with the maturity of the business, and I don't know if that's part of my naivety of not looking into it, but but obviously didn't know much about it, and it was much more advanced than I thought. I guess I was one of those, Cheeto and Mountain Dew guys that thought that that's what was going on. With that, I agree with a lot of the comments that my colleagues have made out here, from Councilmember Lane, who said, yes, we're talking about a conditional use permit. This is something that can be pulled at any time. It's something that if parking becomes an issue, I'm not sure that the applicant would have a problem working with us if it becomes an issue in the future. I think they've been pretty open to things, and I think not only in what they're telling us, but their track record. And I want to touch on that a little bit, because all of us, and I hear Councilmember Kline about the study in Colorado and everything, but these aren't, as I said before, these aren't just startup businesses. They're rather mature. And so I thought I would do a little informal poll, not only with my employees at my job, but other areas. And I asked them, what issues are you hearing with the medical cannabis right now? Oh, I don't hear about anything. And I said, well, do you realize how many dispensaries are operating and have been operating? I mean, why do you think all of a sudden we're going to approve one and problems are going to come? They're all around us. So I'm not saying that we won't have problems, but they're operating now. And I don't know that it's any more of an issue than we're dealing with other sorts of issues around. So, I think maybe in some instances, the spotlight is more on them, and so they have to really focus on it. I don't know, but I was kind of surprised there wasn't one person that I asked that question to that said, oh yeah, the problem with them right now is really bad. Most of them didn't even know that they were operational or that there was any issue at all. So I thought that was interesting. And the last comment I will say is not only this applicant, but all the applicants have options. And with that are impacts. And what I mean by that is they have the option to go right on our city limits in Stanislaus County or wherever, and we can still have the traffic impacts. We can still deal with all the issues, and someone else is going to garner the sales tax revenue or the revenue that we're getting from the development agreement. So again, for me, it's less of an issue of the money, but they do have options. And so with this, I think staff has done a very good job with the direction we've given. I agree with my colleagues up here. There's yet another discussion to be had as far as numbers of dispensaries, locations, what development do we want. But I think with what we have in front of us, I could support it. So with that, I'll entertain a motion or direction. Sorry. The public hearing is closed, but for this, I'll open it up. If you would like one question, please come to the podium.
On the property for the employees. Where is the general public?
No, it's 34 parking spots for the operation business, so that it's up to the business owner where he allows his employees to park relative to that.
Where are the employees going to park?
Well, again, that's the business owner gets to make those decisions on where he requires his parking owners. But obviously, they would park either on the street or.
The city council needs to be concerned where 34 employees are going to park.
They're not going to park at the same
parking
time.
over there.
But recognize the time frame is different as well.
Excuse me?
I mean, not all employees are going to be working 12 hours that the facility is open, right? You're going to have different employees for different times a day. When you say 30 employees, that's for their full operation, 7 days a week. How many are on site each day at each given time is going to vary throughout the course of the day.
How many parking spaces are being made available for the disabled?
The minimum, I believe, is 2.
For 34 spaces.
Correct.
So you've got employees and you've got customers and you've got distributors because they're going to be shipping some of this stuff out, all using those 34 spaces.
Again, as I mentioned earlier, the distributors and those folks are generally coming in the off-business hours. So you recognize a facility that's open to the public, 12 hours a day, is open to their...
Oh, 12 hours a day, how many employees will be in the business during those 12 hours?
It's going to vary throughout the course of the day and the day of the week.
How many?
Well, according to staff report, is up 10 to up to 15 employees per day.
Okay, so 15 employees are probably going to take up 50% of the parking spaces.
You're assuming they're all driving and they're not carpooling,
I was just
right?
doing some math, and something that needs to be considered, because there is no parking on those streets over there for the public. I mean, with the businesses that are there now.
Yeah, recognize who's taking those parking spots. They aren't business, and there aren't people visiting those business. The parking spots today are taken up by the auto dealer, or the person working on vehicles, parking disabled vehicles on the street. So that's a different challenge.
Thank you for your courtesy.
Sure. Well, I have the public hearing open. Is there anyone else that would like to comment on this? Okay. With that, I'll bring it back to, did I have a motion or not yet? I don't believe we did. Okay, so I'll entertain more discussion or a motion.
We got three things here, or what are we doing? Just the ordinance?
Councilor, you're so inclined, you could move to introduce both ordinances if that's your desire. Would cover all the items.
So 17 at 1043 would cover everything? No?
No.
1711.
And 1712?
1711 and
143, 104.
1043.
There's three items.
Three items, right?
There's 1711, there's 2017, 1043, and 1712.
Correct. Yeah, move to approve.
Second.
No,
What did we? No, I'm sorry. Don't those have to be read by title and number only?
I don't know if they do that.
We've already waived that.
We've already
Waived that. Okay.
Consent calendar waives that.
Right.
And you've read the title.
Right.
so
The
we're
approval
good.
of the consent calendar, you've
Right.
waived
Okay.
that.
Okay. So we have a motion by
Me?
Councilmember Lane, second by Councilmember Durossette. Can we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Durossette.
Yes.
Councilmember Lane.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kline.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryno.
yes.
And Mayor Vierra.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. We have no new business this evening, no discussion items, council member referrals. Is there anyone on the council that would like an item referred to a future agenda? Okay, hearing none, reports. I have nothing to report. Council member Ryno.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Vice Mayor Kline.
I went to dinner and a movie on Saturday night, and it was pretty good. It was an Alfred Hitchcock movie, North by Northwest, and I took my granddaughter, and we had a pretty good time. So the chamber did an excellent job. The ladies from Parks and Rec, and it was an enjoyable evening.
Okay. Councilmember Lane.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Councilmember Durossette.
I see the Parks Recs in here. We have the Halloween Festival coming up, I believe, here at the community center. So I don't know what time that starts. Do you have an idea?
6 o'clock, I believe.
6 o'clock.
Okay.
Be a good time.
All right, with that, Ms. Dean? Tom? Mr. Wells?
Councilmember Durossette stole one of my items.
Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that to everyone's attention. This Wednesday morning, Charlotte Irrigation District is doing an update on their electrical and water issues. They will be touching on the FERC relicensing as well as the SED process. So I will be attending that update this Wednesday morning. Wednesday evening, there's a workshop regarding the Crow's Landing. This is a plan that the county is putting in place, looking at the long-range planning for the Crow's Landing road connection from Modesto all the way out to Patterson and I-5. This will be the second series of workshops that staff will be attending that as well. We mentioned last meeting we had the 2+2+2 meeting with the school district. That's in preparation for our next joint meeting with the school district, which is on November 8th at 6 o'clock here at the City Council chambers. And then just a note that Veterans Day, before our next regular council meeting on Friday, November 10th, our offices will be closed.
All right. Mr. Westbrook, sorry.
I just wanted to let everybody know that I love fifth Mondays because it means I don't have a planning commission or a city council meeting. However, next Monday is a fifth Monday, and we will be talking about the release of the general plan update document. So that'll be a joint meeting with the planning commission and the city council in this room at 6 o'clock. Packets were delivered last Friday so that the council and the commission and the public can have an opportunity to go through the general plan document itself, and we will discuss it next Monday at 6 o'clock right here.
Okay, great. Daryl?
Just quick on 4th Street. If you've been out there lately, you've seen the pervial pavers going in. It's looking real nice down there. We also have structural concrete going in for the arches. Will be going in this week. So by the time we meet in 2 or 3 weeks, you'll see quite a bit of difference out there.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to go across the table here, and if I don't get everybody's names wrong, I apologize. It's Yandel, is it? Anything for this evening? Nope. Mr. Scola?
Just a couple things.
Okay.
Thank you. Just want to give you an update, or give the community update. October is a very busy month for the fire department. Not only is it the driest conditions out there for fires, but it's also fire safety month, fire prevention month. So we've been continuing with our efforts in all of the elementary schools in Ceres, and even some that aren't in the Ceres school district, and meeting with every kid age kindergarten through 3rd grade to work on fire safety education. So our crews have been very busy with those efforts, on top of it's still a busy fire season. We've continued with our Safe Kids of Stanislaus County operation. Captain Miller from the fire department has been heading up that for a couple years now, and we've increased our staffing up to 3 now. So we have additional personnel that are providing a service to the community with regards to child safety seats. They gave me a brief update. We've had 2 events at Fire Station 3 out on Service Road this year, and they're planning a 3rd one. The organization really appreciates and is thankful for the city's permission to use that. It's a nice facility. It's out of the weather, and it's very safe for the drivers coming in and out. It's a big drive-through where they come in, they get educated on how to install car seat safety, and then they just drive back out onto the road. So basically this year they've educated 231 caregivers on how to install seat safety. They checked over 340 seats. They found 250 errors in those 340. So a lot of lives possibly saved in those efforts. And they've received donations of over 250 car seats, either through donated from the manufacturers or from grants that they've obtained. So kudos for them and their efforts. Pink October is still ongoing. We appreciate everybody's efforts in the community to purchase the pink t-shirts and to support the cancer awareness programs. We still have upwards of maybe 90 shirts to sell if anyone's interested. The Supermom's Frozen Yogurt is one of the sites that they can be purchased at, as well as Lawnmower Nita on Hatch Road, the Ceres Community Center here, and at Sam's Cafe. All those proceeds are still going to go to the Bill and Elise Alem Cancer Endowment Foundation in Turlock. From what I understand, they're on their goal to about match what they did last year's efforts, which is around several $1,000s this year just from Ceres alone. So, and lastly, an update on our crew that was dispatched to the Napa, Northern California Federal Disaster Area, as it's been called. We had a crew that was deployed October 13th. They returned October 18th. They spent a lot of that time on the fire lines or resting in base camp. They were specifically at the Southern Lake Napa Complex fires, specifically the Nuns Fire. If you're familiar with it, that's the incident where there was a contract firefighter that lost his life when the vehicle that he was operating rolled off of a cliff. They had lost 1,200 structures in that fire, and over 54,000 acres were burned. So we've had people stop by the fire station thanking them for their efforts, even though they didn't even know if we were there or not. They just came by to say thank you for being there. Our crews are working on structure protection, helping citizens get back in their homes if they had a home, making sure they can get back safely. They helped with tree removal crews so that the utility companies could get back in and get the power restored for the people who still had a home. So they didn't just do a lot of firefighting, they did a lot of community service while they were there to do whatever they could for the people that either had a home or had lost theirs. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, and I wanted to, on behalf of the council, again, thank you guys for doing what you did with that. I actually had a friend that lost everything, had a home, was awoken and given no time, basically had to leave, wasn't able to take anything with him and lost everything. So again, I appreciate you going, and I know that the council was very supportive of that. So again, thank you very much. So anything from, I think, the IT side of things? Nope. Okay. Jeremy, I saw you hiding back there. Okay. Supervisor DiMartini, anything? No? Okay, we've beat a dead horse tonight. All right, I thank you. With that, we will move to adjournment of our next regularly scheduled meeting. Actually, we're going to adjourn to next Monday night, where we have a joint City Council Planning Commission meeting. So with that, thank you.